He set a trap for his maid, leaving his late wife's priceless diamond necklace on display, certain she would steal it. He never expected her to notice the one tiny detail that would not only prove her innocence, but completely destroy the world he had built. If you believe that a person's true worth is measured by the choices they make when no one is watching, subscribe to our channel and let us know in the comments. What is the most profound act of integrity you have ever witnessed? The silence in Julian Sterling's penthouse was a weapon. It was a cold, polished silence, 90 stories above the chaotic symphony of the city, engineered to perfection. It was the silence of immense wealth, of a man who had insulated himself from the messy, unpredictable noise of humanity. Every surface in the sprawling minimalist apartment was either glass, chrome, or Italian marble, reflecting a stark, lonely sky. It was less a home than a monument to a man at war with his own heart. And moving through this sterile kingdom was Clara. At 34, she was the penthouse's cleaner, a ghost in a simple gray uniform whose job was to erase any evidence that life had occurred. Her presence was meant to be an absence. In the dust-free surfaces, the perfectly aligned art books she was never to open, the scent of nothing at all. She moved with a quiet, efficient grace, her face a placid mask that concealed the roaring hurricane of her own life. That hurricane had a name, Lucas, her 10-year-old son, a brilliant, vibrant boy whose world was slowly fading to black. He had a rare, degenerative eye condition, and the doctors had delivered their verdict with clinical detachment. An experimental surgery, their only hope to save his sight, would cost $50,000. A sum that, to Julian Sterling, was the equivalent of a rounding error on a stock trade. To Clara, it was a mountain so high she couldn't see the top. On this particular Tuesday, the visual hook was not a coffee stain or a forgotten wallet. It was a constellation of captured stars, lying on a bed of black velvet. It was the Queen's Tears, his late wife's legendary diamond necklace. Julian had orchestrated the scene with the precision of a master strategist. He had taken the necklace from its high-security vault and laid it out on the black marble surface of his private dressing room vanity. It was a breathtaking cascade of flawless diamonds, centered around a single massive pear-shaped stone that seemed to drink the light from the room. It was a cruel, glittering trap. He was watching, of course. A pinhole camera hidden in a smoke detector fed a live stream directly to his tablet. He sat in his office across the city, his face a mask of cold, clinical anticipation. He was a scientist about to prove his most cherished, most bitter hypothesis, that every person, no matter how they postured, had a price. That integrity was a fiction for those who had never been properly tempted. He had been betrayed before. After his wife Amelia had passed, her own family had tried to fleece him, to steal the very jewelry she had worn. The experience had curdled his grief into a permanent, unyielding cynicism. He trusted no one, especially not the quiet, dignified woman who cleaned his home, whose very presence felt like a quiet judgment on his empty life. He needed to see her break. He needed to prove that she was just like everyone else. At precisely 11:15 a.m., Clara entered the dressing room. The air was still, heavy with the scent of Julian's expensive cologne. She saw the necklace immediately. It was impossible to miss. It lay there like a fallen piece of the night sky, radiating a cold, powerful light. She stopped dead, her cleaning cloth frozen in her hand, her breath caught in her throat. Her first reaction was pure, unadulterated fear. This was wrong. This priceless object, this piece of history, should not be here. It should be locked away. From his office, Julian leaned closer to his screen, his heart beginning to pound. Here it comes, he thought, a grim satisfaction rising in him. The moment of truth, the fall from grace. He watched as she took a hesitant step closer. Her eyes, wide with a mixture of awe and terror, scanned the room. She was alone, utterly alone. The temptation was a living thing in the room with her. $50,000, her son's sight. It was right there, a galaxy of hope within arm's reach. Her hand, gloved in thin white cotton, trembled as she reached out. Julian's breath hitched. This was it, the proof. But she didn't touch the diamonds. Her fingers hovered, then moved to the edge of the velvet display cloth, gently lifting it to dust the marble underneath. Her movements were slow, reverent. And as she did, her eye caught something else. A tiny, almost invisible detail. The clasp. A beautiful, intricate piece of platinum filigree was slightly bent. One of the delicate pins that held the mechanism together was out of alignment. It was a minute imperfection, the kind no one but a jeweler or someone with a watchmaker's eye for detail would ever notice. Clara's father had been a watchmaker. She had spent her childhood at his workbench, learning the delicate art of mending the broken, of seeing the beauty in the microscopic. Without thinking, she reached into the pocket of her apron and pulled out a small pair of precision tweezers, a tool she used for cleaning intricate fixtures. It was a simple, kind act, an instinct to fix what was broken. She leaned in, her focus absolute, and with a surgeon's steady hand, she gently nudged the misaligned pin back into its proper place. A soft, satisfying click echoed in the silent room. From his tablet, Julian saw only one thing. The maid was tampering with the necklace. She was trying to break the clasp to make it easier to steal later. The fury that surged through him was hot and validating. He had been right all along. He stormed out of his office. He didn't take the elevator. He took the private express lift, his rage a roaring inferno. When he burst into the penthouse, he found Clara just finishing her work in the dressing room. "What do you think you're doing?" he roared, his voice a thunderclap that shattered the engineered silence. Clara jumped, spinning around, her face pale with shock. "Mr. Sterling, I was just... I saw you," he snarled, striding towards her, his face a mask of triumphant rage. "I saw you tampering with my wife's necklace. Did you think I was a fool? Did you think I wouldn't notice?" "No, I wasn't. The clasp, it was broken. I was just... You were just... What? Trying to make it easier to snatch? To pocket a few diamonds when no one was looking?" He grabbed the necklace, his hands shaking with fury. "You are on probation, effective immediately, and I will be watching you every second. One more mistake, one more thing out of place, and I will not only fire you, I will personally ensure you are prosecuted for attempted theft. Now get out of my sight." Clara stumbled out of the room, her heart shattered. She hadn't been seen as a person. She had been seen as a suspect. Her small act of care had been twisted into a crime. The trap had snapped shut, and she was caught in its cold, cruel teeth. We've only just begun this story, but things are about to get even more intense. Stay tuned to find out how the heroine deals with something she wasn't even supposed to see. Let us know in the comments. Do you think Julian's reaction was justified, or was it a cruel overreaction born of his own pain? The penthouse, once a place of quiet, dignified work, became a prison. Julian Sterling, now consumed by his righteous certainty, turned up the psychological pressure with a sadist's precision. He was no longer just testing her, he was actively trying to break her. He began leaving other traps, each one more blatant than the last. A wallet left on a table overflowing with $100 bills. A luxury watch, a Patek Philippe worth more than her son's surgery, left carelessly on a bathroom counter. A signed blank check left on his desk. Each was a silent accusation, a baited hook. Clara saw them all, and she ignored them all. She cleaned around the wallet. She polished the counter beneath the watch. She dusted the desk without so much as a glance at the check. Her quiet, unwavering integrity was no longer just a character trait. It was an act of war. Every trap she ignored was a small, silent victory that only fueled Julian's maddening obsession. He couldn't understand it. In his world, this kind of restraint was not possible. It had to be a trick, a long game. Meanwhile, Clara's own world was collapsing. The doctors called with a firm deadline. They needed a $10,000 deposit for the surgery within the week, or they would give the slot to another patient. The finality in the doctor's voice was a death knell for her hope. Desperation gnawed at her. She took on a second job, cleaning a grimy downtown office building from midnight until 4 a.m., sacrificing what little sleep she had for a few extra pitiful dollars. She sold the last of her father's watchmaking tools, each piece a painful memory she had to let go. She applied for high-interest payday loans, only to be rejected due to her low income. The walls were closing in, the systemic indifference of the world a crushing weight. One afternoon, Julian orchestrated his cruelest test yet. He was on a conference call in his study when he accidentally knocked a glass of water over, soaking a stack of papers. He called for Clara. "Clean this up," he ordered, his voice cold, not even looking at her. As she knelt to blot the water, he did it. With a casual, almost theatrical flick of his wrist, he slid the Queen's Tears necklace from its velvet bust. It fell from the vanity, landing on the floor with a soft, glittering clatter right beside her hand. "Oh, clumsy me," he said, his voice dripping with false concern. "Pick that up for me, would you? Be careful with it." Clara froze. The necklace lay there, a serpent of diamonds at her feet. This was it. The ultimate provocation. He was daring her. He was forcing her to touch it, to feel its weight, to hold the solution to all her problems in her hand. The air was thick with unspoken accusations. She could feel his eyes on her, watching, waiting for her to make a mistake. Her hand trembled as she reached for it. The diamonds were cold against her skin, impossibly heavy. She could feel the delicate, intricate clasp she had fixed, the tiny pin she had nudged back into place. For a heart-stopping moment, she thought about it. The hospital, the deposit, her son's face, his beautiful eyes that were slowly losing the world. She looked up and met Julian's gaze. His eyes were hard, triumphant. He thought he had her. He thought he had finally won. And in that moment, something inside Clara shifted. The fear, the shame, the desperation, it all coalesced into a single sharp point of cold, clear anger. She was done being a pawn in his sick game. She stood up slowly, the priceless necklace held delicately in her hand. She walked over to him, her step steady, her gaze unwavering. She didn't place it on the table, she held it out to him, forcing him to take it from her hand. "If you are so concerned about the safety of your wife's jewelry, Mr. Sterling," she said, her voice low and steady, a voice he had never heard before, "perhaps you should not leave it lying around like a common trinket." She turned and walked out of the room, leaving him standing there, the necklace in his hand, his face a mask of stunned disbelief. The ghost had just spoken, and her words were a declaration of war. It's all coming to a head. What happens now is not just unexpected. It could change lives if you watch until the end. If you believe in the power of standing up for your own dignity, no matter the cost, make sure you subscribe. The final act of Julian Sterling's cruel play was set for the following day. He had arranged for a private appraiser from a world-renowned auction house to come to the penthouse. His stated reason was for an updated insurance valuation. His real reason was to stage the ultimate humiliation for Clara. He would have the appraiser, a stuffy, authoritative man named Mr. Abernathy, declare the necklace's multi-million-dollar value in front of her, to rub her face in the magnitude of the temptation she had, in his mind, only pretended to resist. Mr. Abernathy arrived, a distinguished man in a three-piece suit, carrying a leather briefcase filled with professional tools. Julian led him to the study where the Queen's Tears lay on a velvet display under a bright lamp. Clara was instructed to be present, to stand quietly in the corner, a silent witness to her own character assassination. Abernathy put on a pair of white gloves and a jeweler's loupe. He picked up the necklace with a reverence that was a stark contrast to Julian's casual cruelty. He examined the large central diamond, nodding in appreciation. "Flawless. A truly magnificent stone, Mr. Sterling." Julian smirked, glancing at Clara. "Indeed. And its value?" "Priceless in many ways," Abernathy murmured, his attention now focused not on the large diamonds, but on the small, intricate platinum clasp at the back. He spent a long time examining it, a frown creasing his brow. "Is there a problem?" Julian asked, his tone sharp. "No, not a problem," Abernathy said slowly, his voice filled with a strange academic excitement. "A discovery. Mr. Sterling, this clasp, it's extraordinary. The mechanism, the filigree, it contains a microscopic maker's mark, an interlocking AV. I've only ever seen it in textbooks. It's the signature of Antonio Vargas, a legendary artisan, a master of micromechanics who vanished without a trace over a decade ago. He was a genius, a recluse. His pieces are the stuff of legend." Julian stared at him, confused. "It's just a clasp." "No," Abernathy said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "It's not. Vargas was famous for one thing above all else. He didn't just make clasps, he made secrets." He looked from the clasp to Clara, who stood frozen in the corner, her face ashen. "This intricate pin here, it's not just a fastener, it's a key. And based on my knowledge of his work, there is only one way to move it without breaking the mechanism. It requires a specific, gentle pressure, a touch that is both firm and delicate. A watchmaker's touch. He looked at Julian. Has this necklace been repaired recently? Julian's blood ran cold. He remembered the camera feed. He remembered Clara leaning in with her tweezers, nudging that very pin. He had thought she was breaking it. Abernathy, seeing the look on Julian's face, continued. Vargas's clasps were not just clasps. They were lockets, secret compartments. With a surgeon's precision using a specialized tool from his kit, he applied a gentle pressure to the pin Clara had fixed. There was a soft, almost inaudible click. A tiny, hidden seam appeared in the platinum filigree. He carefully pried it open. Inside, nestled in a tiny, velvet-lined compartment, was a minuscule, tightly folded piece of paper. With trembling hands, Abernathy unfolded it. It was a letter, written in a delicate, feminine hand. Amelia's handwriting. He handed it to Julian. The world seemed to fall away as Julian read the words his wife had written years ago, words she had hidden in a place she knew only he might one day find. It was not a love letter. It was a confession about her illness, a secret she had kept from him, and a final, desperate plea, revealing the truth about her family's greed, warning him that they would try to take everything after she was gone. It was the truth he had needed to hear, the one thing that could have saved him from a decade of bitter, corrosive cynicism. It was a key to the prison he had built around his own heart, and the only person on earth who had accidentally, instinctively, found the key to unlocking it was the woman he had been trying to destroy. He looked up from the letter, his eyes swimming with tears. He looked at Clara, truly seeing her for the first time. He saw not a maid, not a thief, not a suspect. He saw the quiet, dignified woman whose simple, kind act of mending what was broken had, in an impossible twist of fate, mended him. He stumbled forward, the letter clutched in his hand. I didn't know, he whispered, the words a ragged, broken sound. He looked at her, his face a mask of utter, soul-shattering shame. I am so sorry. A week later, Clara stood not in a cleaner's uniform, but in a smart business suit, in the gleaming lobby of the city's most advanced pediatric hospital. Beside her, Julian Sterling was signing a check that would not only fund Lucas's surgery in its entirety, but would also establish a new wing for the research and treatment of rare childhood eye diseases. It would be named the Amelia Sterling Center for Vision and Hope. Julian turned to her, his eyes clear for the first time in a decade. I spent years guarding a treasure, never knowing its true secret, he said. You showed me that the most valuable things aren't the ones we lock away. They're the ones we have the courage to see. He had set a trap to prove his belief in the worst of humanity. What she did instead, an act of quiet care, of profound, unknowing grace, had not only made him cry, it had forced him to see the truth, and in doing so had given him back his own life. If this story of redemption, hidden secrets, and the power of a single act of kindness moved you, share it. And subscribe for more stories that prove that sometimes the most valuable treasures are the ones hidden in plain sight.